Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the On Their Way Up podcast about up and coming entertainers. My name is Spencer Gordman. I'm a stand up comedian, or trying to be one of that. And today I'm joined by a very special guest. This guy is an Iran born comedian who's out of the DC area. He's performed with comedians such as Dave Attell, Bert Kreischer, Louis C.K., Maj Jobrani. I mean, some of the biggest guys in the game. He's also performed the DC Improv, the Kennedy Center, the TEDx Talks, and he's been on Fox, PBS, and SiriusXM. The guy's an all-star. Thank you for coming
All
on the
right,
podcast,
relax,
Rahmein
relax.
Mostafavi.
Oh
All
my
right,
gosh, that was way
this is
too much, way too much.
this is
Yeah.
this is just for
I guess I,
so
I
people.
cut my own name off though, and that is the hardest part of the entire interview. So,
That's good because I'm pretty sure I
uh,
fucked it up too. So that's good.
yeah, Ramin Mostafavi. The only part you really fucked up is the pronunciation of Iran. So maybe we start
Iran, yes,
there. Yeah,
is
but
Iranian, or do you go by Iranian or Persian? I've heard both.
I don't. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I like to say, it's so many people, especially when I was a kid, and obviously on as we speak, terrible things are happening in Iran. But when I was a kid, it was really embarrassing to be from Iran. So a lot of us would say Persian because
Hmm.
the association was more gentle. And then because when I was a kid in like the 80s, early 90s, it was all like Iran had everything to do with just the hostage crisis or Ayatollah Khomeini or Ali North or Iran
Better
Contra.
better to be associated
So
with the rugs instead of the
for
bombings.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Everybody, we were just like, no, no, we're the nice ones. Don't use that word. But now, with a smaller world, so to speak, and I think maybe a lot of people feel this way that are from like other countries or even other parts of the state sometimes that feel
Hmm.
misrepresented. Um, at least in the media or by reputation, we're starting to try to like own our actual country or area that we're from and speak out a little differently and say, hey, like people from the South, even comedians from the South on the Well Read tour and stuff, being like, hey, we're not all dumb hicks here. We still liberals just because we sound like this. Don't make us dumb. I
Right.
love that, like when we can hear different voices being just as progressive or goofy or talk just as dirty as anyone anywhere around the world. And it's just,
Right.
if so, social media has a lot of negatives, but the positive is the all the access that is no longer in the control of just major media, and we can work around that. And as I said, like just right now, in Iran, if it wasn't for private clips, if it wasn't for the recent sanctions lift from the United States to allow internet access in the US, we wouldn't be seeing the videos of the actual terrible things that are happening on the ground. We would be just being given information. We may not know how bad it is. And the citizens in Iran would just be in a blackout state with like no hope at all. And it's certainly not the first time it's happened. I mean, here in the United States, most recently, the biggest notable uprising was the Black Lives Matter movement, and we had all
Right. Yeah.
uh, those of us on the ground, like taking videos, sending in what the cops were doing, showing what the demonstrators were doing, showing a lot of the truth about who was doing what vandalizing and how. So we're no longer led by major media, which is freaking fantastic, and I think it's
Well,
bringing people closer together, making people more empathetic.
well, and I'm gonna cut all of this liberal bullshit out of the episode, but I mean, you're making no,
Right, right.
but
Sorry about that. Yeah. No,
yeah, no, we're
yeah, no,
but like
just
to your
edit in other words like pro-life if
yeah,
you want to. Just
I'll
throw
just
that in
clip in
there.
like a Trump rally speech here, but just over your voice, like it's the but
Yeah,
yeah,
I had a great time on January 6th. That'll be the soundbite. Just
oh man, but yeah, I think to your point, like with I think a big thing has been the distrust of like the media. Like before it was like you
yeah,
go to, the major media sources for all the news. And people still do that and they are still a good source, but I think the trust is not there as much versus like the social media, like you said. It's kind of like if you hear it from one TV screen or you see, hundreds of thousands of people posting about it, like just by virtue of more people, the truth is going to be a lot closer, just like statistically
A little more
speaking.
accessible. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than filters that make people look more attractive than they actually are, that is the biggest lie on social media. But other than that, yeah, we have access to the truth, and it's cool.
Yeah.
I enjoy that part of it.
And I'm sure that was just a friend that got catfished by somebody with the filter, right? There's a buddy of yours.
For sure, not me.
Yeah.
No, no, definitely not me
Friend.
ever. No, no. I actually the filters really crack me up. To shift from like world tragedies and hope for progress and empathy, um, over to something. It's the kind of humor.
The
Like
finer
I
things in
don't know,
life.
like Instagram models, or maybe it's TikTok models. I don't know. However, it is now. But the people that use heavy filters to make themselves look a certain way, it's like they're one of the only kind of, I guess, art forms that can pretend to be something they're completely not. I guess auto tune
I mean,
maybe is
acting.
a yeah, but acting, you really have to be a good actor or you're not. You can't really pretend to be a
That's
good
true.
actor. I mean,
And then
editors
even
can make you look good or bad,
well, and then
but
like
the
makeup
filters are
artists, like
amazing
that's a skill, like when you're
for
putting on like,
sure.
and there are people who like will just use makeup to doll themselves up, or also just like these crazy videos of like this super elaborate, like makes you look like a whole different like
Oh,
creature, like you're on fire, like
oh,
all that shit's crazy
those
too.
are
But
unbelievable. Those are now
yeah,
that's an
just
unbelievable skill set. I'm more talking about just people that put a filter on and then they look like they're this certain way, all bikini hot or six pack abs or whatever. And then I've met enough of them in person where I'm like, what? Did you think you were that someone would never see you in real life? Like what? Yeah, and you're not an unattractive person, but you're not like that. And it's so like sometimes I wish that like I could do the same thing in comedy where I could post jokes that like just seem fucking hilarious online, and then they come see me in person and they're totally disappointed. Like that would
hey
be the
man,
equivalent.
laugh
I want the
track,
joke filter.
do
Yeah,
laugh
yeah,
track.
but you still can't make the joke. You still can't make the words funnier. But yes, yes, environmentally, ambiance wise, you can lift the spirits of the video. I can't.
That's
I
true.
Have you ever done a great show and then somebody posts a clip of the show where they didn't record the crowd and then it just makes you look like you're in an echo chamber and you're bombing and you're
Well,
like,
I've seen
no,
it
I
where
was doing great.
dude, I've seen it where people will take the the joke or whatever, they'll clip out the audience laughter to make it shorter so it fits in like the 30-second algorithm or whatever. And so it just makes it look like jumping around from line to line that's getting no laughs when the whole thing was
Oh
like doing
yeah,
really well. It just totally mutes it.
yeah, yeah, and
So
I
stupid.
guess sometimes I think it's great. Sometimes I look at my own clips and think, let me take some of the air out of that, or even some of the laughs out of that, so that I can get it in. And then also, it sort of leaves room for if someone sees the clip to still let them kind of see it for the first time live. So I'm not just trashing a whole bit with all the timing that I like and all the the arcs that come naturally, so that it's a little
Right.
different experience. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Look at us.
So
We've already covered. It's been like 47 seconds, and we've covered revolution, social media, positives, negatives, filters, comedy,
yeah,
laughter.
hot chicks that
We're
aren't
fucking
hot,
good.
everything.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to limit it to just chicks. There are all kinds of
Hot
humans out there
tons of
representing
beautiful
that
days that aren't that
they have
great in
things that they
person.
don't. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna post a picture of myself like shirtless with shorts, and just put like I want to put the shadowing of like a 12-inch dick on there,
Like that one
and
meme of the
then
dude sitting there.
yeah, and then just truly disappoint whoever tries me. Yeah,
I love it.
I'd be like that.
So
You just got shadowed. That was it. You saw a
you just
shadow
got
dick, and you came
shadowed.
for me. Yeah.
It's all
All right.
angles, man. I mean, do practical effects like they used to do in the old Hollywood days, like put the light closer, bigger wall, further away. Believe me, as somebody
For
who
sure.
knows a thing about dick shadows,
Yeah.
there's ways around it. You don't have to get super smart.
Yeah, yeah. That's all I ever heard about you previous to having met you was Spencer's the dick shadow guy. They said,
You put the computer at home, just get really good with flashlights and angles. Like
yeah,
have a Patreon set up where you can listen to all the classes of how to get good dick shadows. So if you want to subscribe
so
to
good.
that, people at home. I'm a
I'm pretty
businessman.
sure that I remember the scientist, the genius that figured out the circumference of the Earth used an algorithm based on dick shadows at a certain time of a day when fully erect, laying on his back in I think it was like Egypt and then London, and then he measured the distance and the difference of the shadow based on the time of day and the position of the sun
I
plus
mean,
his dick shadow. So
that was the original sundial, is they would just get somebody with a hard on to lay down, and they'd be like, "All right, I think it's 2:30."
right.
It's
And you
my
could only
knowledge.
go limp at night. There was a lot of pressure on those guys that had to
Hey, but
stay hard all
that's where
day.
Viagra came from. That was the original Viagra, and then it just became
Oh my
modernized.
gosh.
Yeah,
Oh
no,
my
it's
gosh. I didn't
it's
know
cool
that.
stuff. I'm a bit of a history buff, so
That's
yeah, no, it's
insane.
good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
The obelisk dick.
I mean, Washington Monument. All right. So the what I like focusing on when I do these interviews is like kind of just the whole story and like the path from starting as nothing and then now being an entertainer. So like you're born in
Oh.
Iran. When did you leave? Like was it too early where you didn't really have comedy experience, or what was comedy like?
Yeah, yeah, I left way before. I don't. I was probably just mildly speaking at the time. I was born
Gotcha.
in a little city called Kerman in southern Iran, um, to a father who was 100% Iranian, full lineage, and my mom who was born in Springfield, Illinois. But my dad. So the history of Iran and the United States, in brief, is used to get along, now don't get along. So when they used to get along, a lot of Iranians would come to the United States and go to school, and a lot of Americans would go to Iran and vacation and hang out and work on F-14s that we were selling. It was a great relationship. So my dad came over here to go to school, like a whole bunch of Iranians did, go to school and work in an ice cream truck. That was what you had to do.
That's the dream.
And then for Iranians, it was. There's a whole Iranian thing about ice cream trucks, but they met in a restaurant where my dad was a bus boy, and after they fell in love, they moved back to Iran. So my mom left her, which I still have a hard time like wrapping my head around. It's like she left her whole freaking American life family, five siblings, mom, dad, Midwest upbringing, went Midwest to Mideast, and then lived there for like a decade, learned the language, learned how to make the food,
Wow.
had three children there. I was the third there. And then my dad, who was working, who was a professor at the University of Kerman teaching marketing, they
Yeah.
gave him a stipend to come back to the United States to get further education, so that he could bring that United States education back to the University of Kerman. Well, I was one at the time, and it just so happened that when they were given the stipend to move to the United States, the revolution kicked in, and
Yep.
then we were trapped here, so to speak. But all their funding was lost, their house was lost,
Yeah.
so they had to start all over, jobless, essentially homeless. Food stamped it up, but here I was in
Wow.
diapers. I didn't know the difference.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
When I mean, to be fair to your mom moving, it was Springfield. Like it
yeah,
wasn't.
yeah. Like,
Yeah, it's
it's not going to get worse, right?
yeah. I mean, anywhere else is an improvement. To be fair, but again, that's coming from a guy who's from Omaha, Nebraska, so that's a
Yeah.
very shit on city, pretty nationally, which is fair.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so that was it. So they came over here, and so no, I had no semblance of what funny even could have been. My tracking is pretty normal. After that, we lived in the Midwest for a minute, then Baltimore for a while, um, several different places on the East Coast. Ended up near Fairfax, Virginia, and got into theater around my senior year of high school. Took that into college with me, made the mistake of majoring in theater, was a theater actor for a number of years until I decided to start to have kids. And then I hated the schedule of being away so much because I was a very successful actor. And so I needed to reduce my hours, and started doing the only other thing that I'm any good at, which is building things. So I became a cabinet maker for a while, a three-dimensional sign person. Then I got into CNC routing in the museum industry, which is an amazing industry. And somewhere along the way, I got bored, of not being on stage anymore. Met with there was some traumatic stuff, some financial turmoil, emotional, everything. And then you go. Then I got desperate to just be on stage again. Didn't want to go back to the theater necessarily. I needed a more controllable entity, and really just was like, I don't know if I'm funny or not. So I tried it and just totally became addicted. But I started much later than most people. I think you're probably 13, 14 years old. I started
Just turned
when
13,
I
yeah.
was, yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know how you say happy bar mitzvah, but I assume you're Jewish also.
Yeah.
But a lot of Jews live in Omaha, Nebraska. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, there's
No,
all of
3 or
them are
4.
pretty much living in my house. Yeah, that's about it.
I love it. I love it. Well, then I think it's Happy Rosh Hashanah right now. But
Yeah, we just
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm familiar with all the major high holy days,
there you go.
but I, uh, I didn't start till I was 34, and I was already in the senior circuit when I joined at 34 years old. But somehow or other managed to muster up a brand of comedy that was able to penetrate, um, to ages younger than me, and then was able to take some of that into the age bracket above. And so, I don't want to say I'm funny in every room, but I can play different gears, and tend to do fairly well at this point. I'm mean. I'm purposefully quote unquote mean on stage. But it all comes from a place of love and comedy, of course. And so I've been able to have enough twinkle in my eye over the years to jab at all the different communities, including myself and my own family, my own kids, my mom, my dad, and then punch outward from there. The Islam stuff is easy. The Middle East stuff is easy. And then I go joke from there. It's like Don Rickles is probably my biggest inspiration for
Love Don
where
Rickles.
all of that comes from. I know. He's just the best. And, as an example of the type of like mean, endearing, all from love comedy that I do, sometimes I'll tell people, I'm a lot like Don Rickles, but not Jewish, thank God. Which is
Yeah.
just like
Which
it's a Ricklesy thing to do, and of course, it's only in honor of the best that ever did it. So,
is so
anyway, that's
funny.
my track. And fast forward, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean well, you covered a lot in like a minute and a half. That was a minute to
Well,
process.
dude, I'm
My
like
God.
46. I got to pee soon. I'm not going to sit here for an hour, for fuck's sake. Come on.
We that's I mean, the first thing that I grabbed to was it seems like we had almost a similar experience from the different ends of the spectrum. So like I started when I was 16, you started
Mhm.
like double that when you were 34, and the median age of like comedians like when they're starting out is kind of like right in the middle of that, like usually in the mid
Yeah, you're
20s.
probably right. Probably right.
So
Yeah.
I think like for me one of the
What do
challenges.
you think? Do you think you started at the right time? Do you wish
Oh
you'd
yeah.
started? Yeah. Okay.
I mean cuz like I think with anything, starting it early only gives you a leg up with most things. Smoking, if you start when you're like 60, the effects won't really get you till you're, beyond dead.
Yeah.
So
Something
maybe don't
else will
start
kill you.
picking up
Mhm.
smoking when you're 16. But
Uh-huh.
with like stand up, I loved that I started when I did because it really gave me something to do, something to really love, like a passion. I've loved stand up since I was 10, and I knew I wanted to
That's
be a
awesome.
comedian when I was 14. So like getting into it, it didn't seem well. And the other thing was I'd heard of other people that did start when they were 16. I heard of the Bill Hickses and the Chappelles and the Sandlers and the, all these people. And my thought process was these are, some of the greats of all time. Will I get to that
Yeah.
level? Most certainly not. But
Hey, hey,
at
hey,
some
you don't
point,
know that. We don't know.
that's true. That's, you
We don't
believe in me
know.
more than my parents do, but I appreciate it. But no,
Yeah, well, maybe I don't know you as well. No, I listen.
yeah,
I love that you started that young. I envy it. I sort of sometimes I wonder about like what I never I didn't I love stand-up comedy, and to this day I don't know why I never gravitated toward it. I think I had more that acting bug, and I just ignored stand-up comedy altogether. But I am really curious what I might have done, what would I have written, would I have become jaded? Would I have hated it? I saw your set, and I think the fact that you started at 16 years old is awesome. Because it's going to more quickly get you to where you know that you should quit and do something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have more life after stand up
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, the sooner you know you can't do this, the better. And that's
Oh
really
yeah.
what I saw in you, is a guy that's going to know sooner than other people to quit
And
forever.
that really means a lot. That's what I've been going for starting when I did it. So
It's so funny. A friend of mine recently, a comedian that I worked with in DC, we hadn't connected for a couple of years, and then we hit each other up on social media. We reconnected through another comedian. I was so happy to hear from her, and then she was like, "I'll never forget that you told me to quit comedy, and that really inspired me to like, in spite of you." And I was like, "I've never in my life told someone to actually quit comedy. Like, you missed just like I did now. I was like, you missed the joke completely, and that's been like the burning coals in your heart pushing you to do better." I was kidding. I did. I would. I would. That like blew me away, and then I felt so bad because I'm mean in comedy. I jab, I joke. It's always banter with friends and family. It's always been that way. But if someone actually gets hurt feelings, it'll ruin my 2 weeks. I just feel terrible about it if the joke doesn't land and if they're upset with something that I said. I hate it.
see, I love the drive home from that conversation or like sitting there like that night, like all everything that has been driving me to continue to get better was just misunderstood sarcasm. Like just the walls crumbling. That cracks me
Poor
up.
thing. I
Oh, that's a
felt so
silent car
bad
ride.
too. And yeah,
But
it's
no,
bad.
but I think like we both, because I kind of relate to what you said, like, trying to find material that fits for people who are kind of in that like mid 20s ish demographic that we perform to so often, or at least my thing was just everybody was older than me. So you were
Mm.
probably, compared to the other audience members' ages, like you're probably kind of right there in the mix. But I mean, I was
It depends. Like if I was doing an open mic, I was 10 years older. If I was doing a club
right.
show or a suburb show, then yeah, maybe I was even a few years younger for a little while.
Right. But I was and still mostly am like the youngest person in the room, comedian, audience member, otherwise. And so it
Hmm.
took a little bit to get that. But I think once I learned to like address it early and kind of, all right, yes, I know I'm younger. Let's keep going. And I used to do a joke. I don't do it anymore where I would go like, uh, now I know you're probably I see you see how young I am, and I know you think it's a little weird, but I don't think it's that weird because like most of the comedians you're gonna see tonight, I also still live with my parents, which is like for like 16, 17, like it'll just get me by enough so where I can like go into the rest of the whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
when
it's
you're when
always
you're kind of an extreme of something, you do have to be careful too, not to like alienate the crowd in one way or another. And I've learned
yeah,
from my perspective, I I do it, and I jab enough at most groups to where it's like they get it by the time I get around to them. But if I go into a very young open mic and I'm just slamming Gen Z for whatever stereotypes and my observations and my own kids that are Gen Z, they'll pull away from me, like, you old man, you boomer, and whatever the hell they want to say. But with
right,
you have to be careful as well. Like the show we did together, if you went in there and you were like, listen, all you are super old and I'm young, they're all like, man, fuck you. Like you know I I bought these tickets. I got a babysitter to come out here, and now I'm just here to
right.
be told that I'm old. Like, we have to be careful not to alienate those that are the true heroes of every comedy show, which is the laughing human that came
Oh
out to
yeah,
see us.
and that's why I kind of and I see you kind of do the same thing as like I'm the odd one out here. Like I know I'm the young like whippersnapper in the audience here in the room. I got to use old man phrases to kind of right the ship
So
here a
now
little.
I understand. Yeah, I got, oh,
Yeah.
whippersnapper. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. No. If I look like I'm 16, but I say stuff like I'm 68, I meet in the middle with everybody else.
Thank
So,
goodness. You're a real olive branch kind of guy. Appreciate it.
oh man, but yeah, it's that was by making me be like, yeah, I know I'm the weird one here, but like this is what it is, people usually were a lot more forgiving. And with your comedy, I mean, you make fun of your own country, your own religion, ethnicity. So not like so much like you overdo it, but like you definitely do it to where people are like, yeah, I can see where he's coming from, making self-deprecating, and then he makes fun of everybody else. Like you really do hit the room.
I hope so, man. Thank you for that. I mean, that's certainly a a goal for me. I truly try to not leave anybody out because then I feel bad about like, and what can be challenging is short sets. I was at least able to
Hmm.
do 20, 25, whatever. If I'm doing a short, if I got an open mic spot that's like, all right, you get 6 minutes. I'm like, okay, I'm running this chunk on the Chinese. It's just going to look like I hate Chinese people. And I'm like, no, this is
Yeah,
just a section of so many other cultures and people that I'm teasing about. But for that 6 minutes, this guy hates China. It's like,
yeah.
I
It's
don't.
like it's missing this whole beautiful, colorful context, and instead it's just one
Precisely.
color that you're hating on particularly. It's,
I
yeah,
just
not
zoomed
good.
in. Like, no, zoom out,
Yeah.
zoom out.
Oh yeah.
I hate everybody,
But then, so how are you able to balance that coming up with the type of stand up you do where you're hitting on all these different groups, developing that material in these short sets? Did you find it particularly struggling, or has that material evolved as you've been doing more longer sets?
Interesting. I think I've always just been kind of aggressive-ish on stage. I tend to gravitate toward issues that can make crowds a little bit uncomfortable. I'm sort of a comedic, quiet activist, loud when I need to be. Not that I don't love a great dick joke. It's not like I don't have a 6 minute bit about the first time I used Viagra. I do all that too. But in the early days, I've been doing this 11 years now. So back when I first started, one of the jokes that kind of uh, really inspired me, like put me on the map, which is there's not a map, but like that's the phrase, right?
Hmm.
Was a joke that I wrote about the former Washington Redskins, and my real personal point of view that the name needed to be changed, but the ability to take something that was a bit intense and at the time divisive, or even 90% people saying it didn't need to be changed, and doing that joke through the years and watching the percentage shift to everyone saying no, wait, it should change. And I've done that a few times. I did that with like Chick-fil-A. I was doing a joke about Chick-fil-A before any of you hacks were doing a Chick-fil-A joke, because I knew early on about their support of the anti-LGBTQ rights and adoption and marriage. And so I started doing that joke, and that too was an interesting arc from the first days I was doing it, of the crowds going, I would tell them, they put $5.2 million toward the suppression of the gay community, and you'd hear the crowd gasp a little bit, like, "What? I didn't know." And it's not like comics are always telling the truth, but they could tell in that moment that I was not fucking around, and it
Right.
would be sort of an educational moment. And as a real ally, I think, and I'm patting myself on the back. I took a lot of pride in presenting that information to people that didn't know. I personally, and my children and my wife at that time, boycotted Chick-fil-A. Not that that's like the answer to everything, but we were trying to do our best, and then taking that to the stage to relate that information to others was important to me. And it was just some of the most touching moments after shows in those early days, that members of the LGBTQ community would come up to me after shows and just say thank you. Thanks for saying that. Thanks for making people aware. And
Thank you
I
for going
think
to
that's kind of like,
Popeyes. Yeah.
yeah. No, it was Arby's. I'm not going to go to
Okay.
Popeyes. But I
Popeyes even worse. You don't know what they're doing down here there with the South American crisis. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah. So there's enough that I gravitate toward too, that I like to twist around, and it can be heavy, but I try to put some goofiness in it, just like the shirt that I sell. I don't know if you pay any attention to that, but it's not a funny shirt at all. I sell it as a more poignant shirt, and perhaps on this day it speaks a little louder than on the average day. It's the word laughter in Farsi and in English, and it's really just to say that we're kind of all the damn same, other than our stupid governments and politics and weapon sales and positioning. We're all just a bunch of goofy dickheads that could love each other if we give each other a chance. We often these days, especially on social media, we not even just social media in the world, we're trying to we like it's like we start to hate each other
Hmm.
instead of the topic. Like if you and I disagree on an easy one like the abortion thing, if we disagree on that topic. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to hate each other or even not work together or not. It's okay to disagree. Some of these things are fundamental rights and all that, and that makes it harder. But we've gotten to a place of like divisive hatred instead of discussing and trying to figure out the issue and why the person believes that and what are the effects thereof. Just going into immediate hatred and trolling.
Well, and I
It's
think
unfortunate.
a lot of that is because every topic has become politicized. So like somebody who agrees with say you have like two people who agree on just about everything except for one thing, like abortion. Then, hey, that's still somebody who I agree with on a lot of stuff, but we disagree on abortion. But then as more topics become politicized, the amount that you disagree with somebody will widen and widen until it very much is like, I don't agree with this person and any of their views just because all of the views have become you got to take a side.
For sure. And some of it is, of course, an arc, like during the Black Lives Matter movement. I know, I had to have some awkward conversations in the beginning of the first time I ever heard Black Lives Matter. I'm not going to act like I understood it right away. I was
Yeah.
I was one of those people, and I'm embarrassed to say it now, where I was like, how come only Black Lives Matter? And then it took a dear friend and an awkward conversation to have them say, no, you fucking moron. And then, of course, I'm totally on board. I just didn't get it.
Right.
And then trying to be the best ally that I could possibly be does take awkward conversations when you don't come from that background. And it's much like the bit that I just mentioned where I talked about the Washington Football Club. So many people saying they should keep the name, and the only people that we should have been listening to were the indigenous people. Otherwise, we shouldn't have that opinion. And I learned that at that point. I had to relearn it when it came to the Black Lives Matter movement, and needed to just shut up and go tell me what you need from me instead of you know my my off-white mouth just going, here's what I think about the topic.
Right.
So I've had to learn that over and over and over and over and over. One day I'll get
Well,
it, but I do my best.
and I think it also speaks to like everybody has an opinion. And granted, any topic you present in front of anybody, they're going to have an immediate stance. But I think people are losing the ability to go like, listen, I don't know shit about fuck. But like, this is kind of what I'm seeing versus like everybody said this over COVID. Over COVID, everybody became a doctor. Everybody became
Mhm.
a viral, whatever specialist. Like
Expert, yeah.
over, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Whenever something like in with like the whole Russia Ukraine thing, everybody became an Eastern European political expert instead of people just
Mhm.
going, listen, dude, I'm a freaking accountant from Kansas City. But like, what I think Russia doing isn't great. I don't know anything about it, but like I just look at it
Yeah.
and go, this is not good. And I think
Seems not great. I
people,
mean, I always call
yeah.
myself a human rightsist. I try to leave the countries out of it. I'm a human rightsist. Not to mention, a lot of women from Ukraine are super hot. So, like, I would
Oh
defend
yeah.
that any day of the week. But being a human rightsist, in my mind, takes away. I try to look at it as like Group A and Group B, and what's happening with Group A that's applying to Group B. How do I feel about that? And if we can possibly take religion out of it, color out of it, uh, you know all those elements, if it's possible, then what would my point of view be, if I didn't know what color, what religion that groups A and B are? And I think
Yeah.
I think you have to kind of, sometimes you got to swallow your pride a little bit and go, oh crap, I didn't realize that I was biasing my opinion because of my own upbringing or whatever.
Oh
And,
yeah,
and
and I
that's
also,
it's
to your point,
humbling.
Iranian women, from what I've seen, which granted over the past 15, 20 years has just been the eyes, very beautiful as well. So, sorry, that was a
Yeah.
cheap joke.
Yeah, no, no, no. There are some great plastic
Oh
surgeons
yeah,
out there, and they do wonderful work. So it's
dude.
no, I mean,
I mean,
what group doesn't have some extraordinarily good looking people, and at the same time, just some absolute garbage cans. But
Jews.
Your group?
Oh yeah,
Jews don't have beautiful women? Are you insane?
okay,
Oh,
everybody's like Jewish women this, Jewish women that. If you now, granted, there's a lot of like Judaism is a religion, so it's kind of tough to be like the Jews look like a
it's an
lot like
in-betweener.
right, but so like, but then if you look at like the culturally, like this is what a Jewish woman looks like. I'm like, have you heard of Brazilians? You know?
Yeah. Listen, some of the most beautiful women that I've ever seen, and
Oh,
like
me too.
gorgeous Jewish women,
And
just
I'll
gorgeous.
quantify like
But like the
Israeli women.
spectrum,
Israeli
yeah.
women are incredible. Oh, dude, Israel has
Mm.
the everybody's either a 9 or a 2. Like it's mostly
I used
very
to make that
attractive.
joke. It's funny. I used to make that joke about Greek women because I used to have a thing about dating Greeks, and but yeah, like the Greek women are like stunning or just like stunning, like one of the
Yeah.
two. Where you're like, whoa,
I
but
like
it's
how
the
this went
same in every culture.
I like how this went from, we really just need to treat each other better as a people to like, dude, this country's women way hotter than this country's.
Yeah. Let's all be nice to each other, but fuck the Greeks. Am I right?
Yeah. Or fuck
But
the
it's all
Greeks. I
stupid.
mean, if they're,
Yeah,
depends on who it is. Yeah. Could be
highly
taken either way.
recommended. Yeah, no,
Um,
and that's a wonderful thing about comedy and the ability to laugh and show all the similarities, and we just really the more conversations we have and the smaller the world becomes. I hope the more love spreads. I think we're seeing that. I mean, right now is the most amount of love, support, coverage I've ever seen in my life for something
yeah.
that kind of is positively supporting the Iranian people, and I'm stunned by it. It's strange to see, but we all did it. We jumped in on Ukraine, and I guess as our eyes become, it's an unfortunate amount of stress that we're all subjected to these days. Every notification I get from CNN on my phone is another heart attack. The empathy and I don't have the capacity always to see
Right.
everything that comes through, but I think it does. Outside of the massive anxiety that occurs, bring us to a place of more compassion and empathy and love and understanding. And
Well,
I
and
always say
people,
governments are stupid.
oh,
People are
yeah.
wonderful.
I mean, if there's a commonality around the world, that probably is number one. And I also think
Mm,
people say so often, we're so divided in this country and this around the world and all of this and all of that, and we're it's further apart than we've ever been. And I think those people are morons because like it is so clear with social media, everybody has access to everybody pretty much, and the more that
yeah,
people are sharing things and showing things, I mean, I definitely agree that change has been pretty substantial over the last few years of like the world is really not that big and people really do give a shit about other people and what's going on.
mostly,
uh,
mostly,
yeah,
yeah,
mostly, yes.
mostly, yeah,
Always
yeah.
qualifier, but
Those in power are a little bit different than the rest of us, but yeah,
oh yeah,
I
but
agree. I would say a greater percentage good, but who knows? Did we fix the
yeah,
world yet? Did we fix it now
I think we're
with this
close.
interview?
Well, that actually was leading me to my next question. So stand-up
Oh,
comedy fixing the world, like, but no, it's I mean, I love stand up. I mean, you love stand up. I mean, stand up is such this great thing. Kind of to what you were talking about. Like, well, I guess like have there been topics that you've, and I know the answer is going to be yes, but like topics you've talked about on stage where you go, I don't know if people really wanted to hear this. I know this is important, but I don't think anybody's listening, or people just are adverse to it, or I'm coming about it wrong, like that kind of
for
stuff.
sure, definitely. But I even when I teach stand up, I have to remember it for myself, and that is, we're not up there to soapbox. We're not up there to
Hmm.
teach people anything at all. If they happen to take something from it, then great. But at the end of the day, if they're not laughing, we are failing as comedians, and I can't stand when I see, especially experienced comedians getting on stage, just being like, laughter aside, here's my perspective on the fair pay. It's like, okay, dude, but if I don't laugh in 12 seconds, then fuck you. Like, I'm not here for this part.
If
I'll
this
talk
isn't
about this
setting up
later.
Yeah, if
set
this
up
isn't
the
setting up
punchline
that,
or shut
yeah,
up. Yeah.
no, I
Not
totally
that I don't
agree. And
believe in poignant comedy, but we're not all as captivating as some of the greatest speakers in the world. We're there to be funny. Period. But yes, I mean, you've seen I broach some topics that make a couple of people a little squeamy, and I don't love it
well,
when they don't laugh, but it happens.
Well, I think if you're doing it, if like a minority of the audience is a little uncomfortable, but even then, like just a little bit uncomfortable, like I kind of think that that area where people are a little bit, hey, you're talking about some stuff that's a little bit taboo, but if you can do it in a way that people are laughing, and I mean, George Carlin has a great quote that I'm going to paraphrase because I can't remember like any of it, but it's like, when people are laughing, that's when their brains are most open to new topics.
Mm,
And I think,
interesting.
yeah, to your point, the when people go laughter aside, it's like, no, use the laughter to like using the laughter instead of
Yeah.
putting it on the back burner will make this point even more poignant.
Truly, truly, truly. Yeah, I mean, gosh, laughter is such a powerful thing. I don't know if you can really sit down and end up truly laughing with someone, could you ever hurt that person? Give it in that moment. If I was to sit across the table from someone that I'm supposed to hate, that is a stereotype I'm supposed, and then you laugh with them, is that someone that you can then walk away from and go, you know what? Fuck all those people. I don't think you can. I think it's a chemical bond when you find a place of laughter together. Sharing a meal can do it. Laughter can
Hmm.
do it. There are many things, but laughter is a very. People say laughter is the best medicine. I like to joke and say laughter is the best copay, because you got to buy the ticket, get into the room, let me do some work, and I'm going to need to see a follow up visit. So you're not going to be fixed in one visit. So laughter is the best copay, you guys. Support us. That's the
Yes,
message.
yes. Don't support anything else. That's where
Nothing
we're
else.
it. Stand up
Nothing else.
is really, I mean, the end all be all. Music sometimes and rarely.
Truly, it's art in general. It really is art in general, and
Yeah.
I think we. It's not like it's been 50 years since stand-up comedy has been seen as a powerful art form. So we are benefiting on the shoulders of the giants before us that set the stage for stand-up to even be seen as a true art form. So we have to remain thankful to them, and now we are, and I couldn't love anything more than I do the art of stand-up comedy.
Me neither. Sorry to my girlfriend who's listening to this, but
Yeah, listen,
yeah,
I never
babe,
liked that bitch, to be honest. I
yeah.
never, I don't support you in it. I think, no, yeah, I'm sure
Listen,
she's
I've
fine.
known you since I was what, 17. I've watched stand up since I was 10. Like, you just
Yeah,
you're playing against the odds here.
for
Uh
sure. No, I'm certain, I'm teasing. I'm certain she is the best you can do. So
well done. My
there it
tip of
is.
the cap on that one. Uh
My,
so yeah.
I got to run. I,
Okay.
uh, I could talk to stand up and
Oh,
especially a passionate young whippersnapper such as yourself all
right.
day.
I was going
But I
to
have,
2:40. We're in different time zones. I was like, "Oh, we got another hour." No, you got, yeah, 2:45 now.
oh, yeah, for
Yeah.
me it is.
Gotcha.
Plus, I'm bored to tears, and I just can't do this anymore. This is
Dude,
killing me.
awesome. Real quick, where can people find you? Just so get the plug out of the way.
So my name is really fucked up. It's Ramin, and it's Rahmein. And if you look up that spelling, Rahmein, and the word comedian, you're gonna find me. It'll be Instagram, it'll be TikTok, it'll wherever the heck you want to find somebody. The website is literally ramin.com. You got to be a little bit into the mean stuff. I'm for most, I'd like to say, but perhaps not for everybody, and that's fair. But yeah, come find me
No,
somewhere, baby.
this guy is funny as fuck. I saw him a couple weeks ago in Kansas City. So funny. Please go check out his stuff. I will do my links in a little bit. I'll just cut this together and do it when we get off this call.
Thanks,
Um,
buddy.
And my name is Spencer Gordman. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Spencer_Gordman, or just my name on Facebook. And more importantly, follow the podcast. Again, that's On Their Way Up. There is spelled THEIR on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe wherever you're listening. And if you'd rather watch it, you can watch it on YouTube and on Spotify if you're not already doing that. as well. Thank you so much for doing the podcast. It was great to talk with you again.
My man,
Uh,
thanks again, dude.
Dude, yeah, and everybody have a good rest of your day.